Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the blue sky. Isn't that beautiful? It's a gorgeous day here in Florida. And today we're working on this pressure washer. It's a 4,000 PSI unit. The stickers have all come off over the years. I can't tell what brand this is, but I can tell that it's 4,000 PSI because I can see right over here it says 400. So it's at least 4,000, judging by the state of the frame. It's got a Honda GX 390 on it. Customer brought it to me and said it was given to him for free by a friend of his that said it ran, but it had carburetor issues. So the first thing we're going to do is find out if it's got spark and compression. We do that the old-fashioned way. We take off the air filter cover, which is right here. I'm going to unscrew that. We're going to spray some starting fluid down there. We're going to make sure that the on-off switch is to the on position. We're going to pull it a couple times and see if it'll bark. Please subscribe. We're getting nothing out of it. I know I'm in the on position here. We've got an oil sensor unit here that's plugged in. No idea. Feels like it has good compression. So the next thing I'm going to do is pull the spark plug and check for spark. So we're going to pull the boot. Feels a little loose, but that's not a big deal. We can tighten that up. And I'm going to put my spark checker on there. And in case this is your first time watching a video like this, what we're looking for is a little light to flash right here while I pull this thing. I don't know about you, but I got no light showing up. There's no light flickering in there. I'm just going to flip the switch to the opposite position, which is the off position. It's got good compression, but we're getting no spark at all in either position. Now the next thing you want to do is check the oil, because these have a low oil pressure sensor right here. So basically, if the oil gets too low, this will sense that. It will ground out your magneto and take away your spark. Now you got an oil fill here, and on the other side you also have an oil fill here. Now they should be even, so you can check either one. Now the first thing I do when I'm working on a customer machine, not one that I find in the trash, is check the oil. Because the last thing I want to do is start to work on a customer machine, find it's a stupid thing, fix it real quick, and then run it and it's low on oil and I do damage to it. So I don't need to check the oil. I know that the oil is overflowing. So that tells me that whoever gave this machine to that man knew that it didn't have spark, overfilled it with oil to make sure that the oil pressure sensor wasn't kicking it off, and that's as far as they went. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull the pull cord cover here, and we're going to pull the cover to the motor. In order to do that, I'm going to take off this bar right here, this protection bar, because I don't think I'll be able to get that off without hitting that bar. So there's a couple of nuts and bolts on the bottom of each side. I'm going to take those off, take that bar off, then we're going to take this cover off, and I'll show you why. Now underneath of here, we got a little bit of wet oil and dust stuck up on it. That tells me that there's been some kind of an oil leak, which probably why the owner, the previous owner, decided that he was going to check the oil level when it shut off. He knows this thing leaks a little oil. This happens to be a 7/16. I'm just taking these 4 nuts off of these bolts so that we can take this arm off. Don't worry about tilting your machine up. Perfectly fine. Okay, we have a few basic things to check first. There's a couple of reasons why you would lose spark on this machine. The coil or magneto obviously being one, but in this case we have a low oil pressure sensor. That's this yellow wire coming out, and we also have your on-off switch. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this yellow wire, because if the sensor is bad, it will ground this wire out and take our spark away. So if I disconnect that and then I give it a couple of pulls and we get our spark back, then we know it's that. I'm just going to give it a few pulls and see if we got spark. I don't see any spark. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the wires to my switch, and what I'm going to do is pull them apart, and I'm going to plug this switch together to make a connection. And what that does, because this has, you'll see it if I have to take the magneto off, this has a 4-point electrical system on the magneto or coil. So by doing that, that completes the circuit, and it may allow us to get our spark back. If we do get spark back, that tells us that our switch is the problem. These things go bad, it happens. Let's see if we get spark back. Give it a few pulls. And I don't see any spark at all. Now just for the heck of it, I'm going to undo those 2 wires from the switch. Now that should be an open circuit, and we definitely should not have any spark. So all that's left at this point is to pull that coil off. So in this case, we took off the on-off switch, we connected the poles together to make a loop. That should have given us spark back if it was our switch. I pulled it apart and left it open just in case something was crossed. No spark. We also disconnected the oil shutoff. No spark. That tells me, I'm 99% sure that the magneto has gone bad. So I'm going to show you how to pull that off. Using a 10mm socket, you should have a bolt here, 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 and down here by the carburetor. Now one's missing, so I know somebody already had this thing off before me. And our cover should come off. If your fuel line is in this little holder, just push that up and pull the fuel line out, and you'll be good to go. Now we're still connected here by our wires, but I've already unplugged those, so I can just unplug that, pull that cover off. There's our coil, and this is the kill wire. There would normally be a single kill wire on it, but in this case they overcomplicated it and put a 4-way pole on. That's the oil cutoff sensor, and also the on-off switch will be plugged in there. So you just give that a squeeze and pop it off like so. And you can see in there that there's 4 poles. Now I don't have to check continuity on those, because by unplugging them over here, we already checked. So the chances are that it's this coil. Now you'll hear people say, if you pull that off and it's rusty, it may not fire correctly. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I have never seen rust on a magneto or on a flywheel stop spark. You're talking about stopping electricity from going through rusty metal, where electricity can go through air, and that you in fact have to leave an air gap between the coil and the flywheel. What I am going to do, and I don't know if I can show you this, is I want to make sure that there is an air gap in between the coil and this. Now I don't see any lines or scratches on the flywheel, so it's not touching. Yeah, I can see the air gap. Okay, so basically to remove this, all you have to do is take out this bolt and this bolt, and then you have to feed your coil wire like so here. I may have to take off the carburetor in order to get that out of there. but I'll see you in a minute. I'm going to take these 2 bolts out and we'll see if we can fish it out. And our coil is off. Now all I have to do is see if I can fish this thing out, which I can. And our coil is now free. There may be, if you look inside of there, look for corrosion. This thing is completely clean and clear. This being loose shouldn't make a difference. It should spark across that just like the air gap here. I'm not seeing any damage. I don't see any cracks in anything. I don't see anything broken, but these things just go bad. I'm just gonna go ahead and order a new Magneto. We're gonna put this thing back on it and we're gonna see if we can get her to start up, fire up. So it's been a couple of days and I got the new coil. I call it a Magneto. I don't know why. Old school, new school, who knows. But it does match, it does fit. So what we're gonna do real quick is install it here. When you're installing it, I usually use a business card. A lot of people don't have business cards laying around, but I happen to have one. What you're looking for is the magnet itself. If you put that in place and you put the business card in there, that'll hold your air gap where you need it to be. All right, it's in, it's on. Let's see if we got any spark now. No spark. Okay, I don't know how much of this you're gonna see. I couldn't see any spark on my spark tester, so I just want to check with my own eyes. And I see spark. So we're gonna do this the old-fashioned way. I put the spark plug back in and we're gonna do it now that I can see spark. We're gonna spray a little starting fluid in here, give it a couple of pulls, see if it'll start on the 3rd or 4th pull. Alright, well, it tried, which is more than we had. But something's definitely going on with it. It's just jumping and it won't start, like it's out of timing somehow. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong with it. Seems like it's out of timing, and I'm not sure why. Although if it was out of timing, it should be pulling this back out of my hand. Let me take a break. Okay, just because it's what I do when something weird is going on, I went ahead and put another spark plug in. So let's see if the spark had anything to do with it. If the Magneto went bad, it could have taken the spark plug with it. There we go. Alright, so she'll bark now. That's what we want to see. Okay, so now she'll bark. I guess the next thing we're going to do is make sure the tank is empty, clean the carb a bit, see if we can put this thing back together. Now that we got spark back, the next thing I'm going to do is pull this carburetor. It's been setting a long time. See if I can clean it, get some fuel in this tank. Well, we got no fuel in the tank because nothing's coming out, and I didn't expect there would be. You don't need to take this back plate off. The only thing we've got here looks like a paper washer, which, see if I can get that off without any problems. You can get it off without breaking it. You can reuse it. I'm going to put that back in place so I don't lose it or mess it up or get cleaner on it. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull this apart, see what it looks like on the inside. I have tons of videos on cleaning carburetors. This one's no different. So I'm going to skip that in this video, and I'll bring you back as soon as this is clean and we'll give it a try. Now, I usually put my bolts and nuts back together where they belong so I don't lose them, especially if it's going to be a day or two before I get back to this. It's almost dark, so I'm most likely not going to clean this carburetor tonight. And in the meantime, I don't want to lose anything, so I'll be right back. Okay, the carburetor is clean. I chose to clean this one instead of replace it because it didn't look horrible. Today is one of those days where literally everything is going wrong and taking a half an hour to do a 5-minute job. So I'm just putting a little fuel in this thing, and we're going to give it a couple of pulls and see if she'll start. Now I hear you barking, big dog. You're not supposed to run a pressure washer unless it's got water hooked up to it. Well, I run them all the time with just for 5 or 10 seconds. I want to see if it's going to start and run, then we'll hook water up to it. I don't know which way it's on. That's on. Choke. Alright, let's get some water hooked up to it. We'll see what happens. Alright, we got the water on. Let's see if this thing will start up. Might have to run for a few minutes, clear things out. Let's just see. Well, there we go. I'd call that a win. Now, I don't have a hose with a wand that fits a commercial unit, but if you watch the stream, you can see that it's on the right side of that yellow line. And when I fire it up, it goes to the yellow line. Which means it does have some pressure coming out of the pump. That's the most of a test I can do until I get a hold of them and ask them to bring me the wand or take it home and test it themselves. But we got us a win. We had a bad Magneto. There were a few other adjustments I needed to make. Clean the carburetor. Seems to be running pretty good. I'm going to put that front handle back on, tighten a few things up, but that should get you started. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Hit the like button. It's somewhere between my chin and my balls, and I'll see you soon.